The United States is not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic. It's a talking point that we've all laughed in the faces of so many people for repeating because the silver bullet response is obvious. A republic is a form of democracy, you politically illiterate buffoon, but the more I think about it, the more I'm actually inclined to agree. Because while there do exist democratic elements to our society, as in we get to cast a ballot for our representatives every few years, the extent to which our particular manner of democracy grants our votes any real and meaningful power over political and economic outcomes is actually extremely limited. We can't vote the politicians out early if they don't follow through on their promises. We don't vote on which laws get passed. We vote for a representative based on nothing but hopes and promises and then just trust them to pass desirable legislation with absolutely zero consequences if they don't. Workplace democracy is either incredibly rare or downright legally discouraged in most places. And you might say, yeah, Shibuki, that's how a representative democracy works. But does it really represent us? The vast majority of citizens are low-income working class, and nearly all of the politicians are wealthy capitalist and nepo babies. I mean, just look at the presidential elections. Sometimes the candidate that the most people voted for in a democracy loses. That's weird. Sometimes a room full of unelected Supreme Court officials decides who wins the presidential election. Sure, the people are free to choose any representative they'd like from some curated pool of candidates that have all been funded, instilled, and pre-selected by the ruling class in order to ensure they serve corporate interest above all else. But who's really in charge? Who's sending people to war? Who's refusing to prosecute murderers and sex criminals? Who's denying us the human right to health care? It sure as hell isn't we the people. We would never do that to ourselves. It's the people who pay off the representatives who don't actually represent us, and the founding fathers set it up that way intentionally. Most of them were of the mind that the general citizenry could not be trusted, with voting rights originally limited to only a massive minority of wealthy white male landowners, and denouncing direct democracy as a potentially dangerous form of government by arguing that it would inevitably lead to mob rule and tyranny of the majority, the old "but if we let the slaves vote, they might just vote away slavery" paradox, a tale as old as time. So what if we were all just being a bit too dismissive by playing semantics and misunderstanding the original assertion? Because despite the obvious conceptual overlap between a republic and a democracy, if the question is actually which of these two labels would constitute a more accurate description of how the US system of government functionally operates, I would say republic by a long shot. Not because we've strayed too far away from democracy and this is what we've become, but because we were never really all that democratic to begin with. We, the people, being in charge was just the lie they sold us in order to keep the working class so constantly at each other's throats for the way we voted, to notice the politicians and billionaires picking our pockets and continuing to get away with the same nefarious, world-ruining nonsense that they historically always have.